In my past life, I spent half a century with Jake He. On his deathbed, he whispered to me, Lily Tang, how I wish it had been Tara Lee who pulled me from the snowdrifts that day. Not you. Next lifetime, I want Tara to hold her hand and grow old together. Me, then die faster. Jake's eyes stayed wide open. He literally died of rage. Our children blamed me for quarreling with Jake, for letting him depart this world with regrets. I silenced every weeping filial descendant at the funeral with precise counterarguments. Eldest, remember when you needed money for your marital home? No. Why the family coffers suddenly ran dry. Your father sent it all to rebury his white moonlight in her hometown. Second son, recall how you coveted your father's position. He gave it to that woman's nephew. Some distant, old friends Ken meant more than his own flesh and blood. Youngest, ever wonder why he forced you to marry that family friend's son? That boy was his precious white moonlight's eldest nephew. I scattered Jake's diaries across the morning hall. Pages fluttered like funeral banners in the wind. Our children stood thunderstruck. Don't believe me? Read them yourselves. Every child I bore Jake became another votive offering to his long-dead white moonlight. He repaid my life-saving kindness by harnessing me like a beast of burden, a lifetime of toil built on lies. I collapsed in sorrow, never to wake again. Who could have known? Then my eyes opened once more. I had returned to the winter of my 19th year, to Clearwater Village, nestled in the northern mountains. Lily Tang, I love that hair ribbon you bought today. Just give it to me, won't you? 18-year-old Tara Lee lounged comfortably atop the haystack, behind our mule cart, her youthful charm undimmed. I gripped the reins and asked coldly, if I own something you fancy, must I hand it over? Tara retorted without hesitation, hasn't it always been this way? You're just a tall, dark country bumpkin. It'd look better on me anyway. Why not gift it? And your spineless dad, who wouldn't squeak if beaten in with 3 rods. Doesn't he love bowing to mine? She ended with a mocking giggle. Spotting Jake, he nearly buried in the snow ahead. I cracked the whip, sending our cart careening down the path. Fine. I'll gift you this ungrateful Jake he too. Tara tumbled off the cart with a thud, landing in a heap with the frostbitten Jake. Ah, help, there's a dead man. Wait here, Tara, I'll fetch the villagers. My shouts echoed across the snow-blanketed wilderness. The bitter wind clawed down my throat, piercing my lungs. This weather is bone-chilling. In my past life, I'd spent most of my years down south, so long that I'd nearly forgotten how it felt to experience this frozen wasteland of my hometown. The villagers quickly dubbed Jake He and Tara Lee out from the snowdrifts. Lily Tang, are you trying to get me killed? You left me with that corpse. Tara Lee stomped her foot at me in front of everyone, her temper flaring. The mayor's wife passed by, pretending not to see the commotion. The mayor was more concerned about the rescued rustic youth's condition. To everyone present, this was just another ordinary day, all because Tara's father was the mayor, and she was the village belle, her nose perpetually tilted skyward. She'd only be happy if I groveled. If I didn't, suddenly I was the problem. The country doctor emerged from the house. He gave the mayor a thumbs up. The kid would live. Tara clicked her tongue. Alive? Didn't even lose any limbs to frostbite? The mayor shot her a warning glare. That's one of the homestead's rustic youth. Mind your manners. Tara was the mayor's late-life miracle child, raised as precious as eyeballs in the palm. Even her lack of empathy didn't warrant a proper scolding. I could already see Jake, he and Tara Lee's red threads of fate tangling together. Without so much as a goodbye, I headed home. On this day in my past life, Tara Lee and I were supposed to go into town to enjoy the festivities. But on our way back to the village in the mule cart, Tara spotted someone half buried in the snow from afar. She cursed our luck, running into a frozen corpse on our outing. It was I who ignored her protests and insisted on checking, saving Jake He's life. Afterward, Jake convalesced at my home. Outwardly, he expressed gratitude toward me, yet secretly, he'd already developed feelings for Tara, who visited frequently. Learning Jake was a rustic youth from the city, I admired his refined manners, another layer of respect for an educated man. After recovering, Jake often returned to the village. Back then, I truly believed he came for me. Only later did his diary reveal he'd been hoping for chance encounters with Tara. That October, the national exams, dormant for a decade, were abruptly reinstated. Jake treated the exams with utmost seriousness. So did I, scouring for textbooks, mending his winter clothes, gathering exam intelligence. My efforts ultimately secured Jake's place in the examination hall. He accepted every kindness I offered, while privately vowing in his diary to propose to Tara at the mayor's house after passing the exams. Later, Jake indeed passed the national exams, becoming one in 10,000, a future university student, only for the mayor to have already married Tara off to the county office. Everyone at the homestead knew how much I'd done for him. Pressed by circumstance, Jake, he had no choice but to marry me. After the wedding, he left for university while I waited in the village. When he was assigned a city job, I bid farewell to my family and followed to care for him. When he offended his superiors, I smoothed things over. Even when he abruptly quit his government post to venture 1,000 miles south for new opportunities, it was I who emptied our savings to fund his dreams, assuring him I'd hold down the fort. Decades of storms weathered together, yet I never once suspected Jake carried another in his heart. At every career milestone thereafter, Jake would write things like, "Had Tara Lee not died young, how joyous I'd be with her by my side instead." His entire life became a shrine to Tara, while I, the spare tire he'd chosen out of duty and necessity. "Sis, aren't you freezing? Get inside." My teenage brother D. Lee shivered by the door, holding up the heavy curtain for me. Long-lost family suddenly restored to memory's vividness. The winter wind froze the glistening in my eyes into crystalline petals. A chill that burned, a cold that warmed. When I saw my parents again after so long, I embraced each with desperate warmth. My mother shoved me aside. My father chided, "Girl, quit this nonsense. You're scaring us." Once inside the house, I grabbed a small mirror to study my reflection. My complexion was pale and rough, the tip of my nose red from cold, with thick brows and large eyes, a strikingly bold face. I really had turned younger. Dealey asked, "Sis, what are you preening for?" I asked foolishly, "Between me and Tara, she's the prettier one, right?" Dee covered his eyes and clutched his head. "Obviously Tara's prettier. Doesn't the whole village say so?" Though Tara Lee was spoiled and willful, her beauty was renowned across 8 villages. What did it matter that I'd saved Jakey's life? It couldn't compete with the allure of an unattainable white moonlight. This lifetime, I'd let Jake have his way. Whether he could make things work with Tara, that'd be up to him. This time, Jake received treatment at the mayor's house. When he woke, whether from excitement or something else, he seized Tara's hand and pressed it to his cheek. Then he spouted a stream of bewildering nonsense. Tara promptly schooled him with a slap. "You scum, I save your life. And you dare try this the moment you wake?" Tara Lee launched into a torrent of curses. But to Jakey's eyes, Tara probably resembled nothing more than a feisty little stray cat. Even her angry hisses seemed utterly adorable. "Tara, I've finally found you." Jake even shed emotional tears. When Tara's mother entered the room, she assumed Jake had been reduced to tears by Tara's temper. Later, they learned Jake was the homestead's accountant, tasked with record-keeping. He had trekked through mountains and rivers to shuttle between nearby villages. Tara's expression softened considerably because, in her mind, accountants handled money, and that meant power. "Fine, considering you nearly froze to death. I'll let it slide this time." "Of course, Tara." Tara's mother wore a thunderous expression. She pressured the mayor to send Jake away immediately. A young man in his 20s, groggy or not, has no business getting handsy with my daughter. Yet once properly groomed, Jake, with his refined manners and striking looks, made everyone's eyes linger appreciatively. The mayor, unlike us common folk, understood the national exam's transformative potential all too well. After sitting with Jake, listening to his measured speech and his connections with homestead and even collective leaders, he began entertaining the idea of placing an early bet. When I heard the mayor wanted Jake as a live-in son-in-law, It didn't surprise me in the least. After all, he's erudition, eloquence, and looks were top tier, even among the male rustic youth at the homestead, compared to those lustful gadflies constantly buzzing around Tara Lee in the village. He was in an entirely different league. Not to mention, in his past life, Jake had spun an elaborate web of connections, from the collective all the way to the county office. After my family saved him, completely dazzling my father, this time around, I reckon Jake's spiel to the mayor couldn't have been much different. Naturally, it triggered the mayor's fear of missing out. Tara Lee came to see me several times. She'd prattle on about Jake in front of me, sharing every trivial detail. When I didn't engage, she deliberately prodded, "Tang, we grew up together. If I marry before you, will you be upset?" I humor her as best I could. "Your family's well off, and you're pretty. Of course you'll marry well. I want to stay home a few more years to care for my parents." But Tara couldn't resist needling me. "Exactly. I'm marrying the most famous accountant among the rustic youth in the whole countryside. As for you, well, you are rather plain. Probably have to wait until all the village boys have picked their brides. And only when there's no choice left will they consider you." She dissolved into another fit of giggles. Only when she saw me speechless did she flounce out, satisfied. Tara Lee and I had grown up together. She'd always been the type to flaunt and show off. Every time she got something new, she'd parade it around, craving everyone's envy. Cross her, and you'd face endless resentment and targeted spite. Only after Tara Lee left the courtyard did I fish out a copy of historical records from the Kong. Dealey hovered by the doorway, peering in. "Sis, Tara's gone? Sis, you should marry an educated man too someday." I scoffed. "Marrying scholars is pointless. Better to become one yourself." "True. What's Tara even bragging about? She just married some rustic youth. Me. After New Year's, you'll understand why she's showing off." Dee didn't get it, staring blankly at the textbooks in my hands. She couldn't even read half the words on the cover. Her expression mirrored that viral meme of Bao Qiang squinting at a receipt. "Huh? What's this even say?" In this era, literacy rates were dismal across the board. That's why the first national exams after reinstatement were laughably simple compared to later years. In my past life, constrained by circumstances, I'd balked at the exams, choosing instead to support his academic ambitions. It trapped me in an orbit around him, my entire existence reduced to circling his gravitational pull. And the result? Jake never even took it seriously. I even felt it was him who gave me this good life. My wife came from dirt-poor peasant stock in the mountains, fussy over trifles, clueless about what really matters. If I hadn't passed the national exams and started my business down south, you kids might still be tilling fields in some mountain hollow, all thanks to your mother. Men strive for dignity as Buddha craves incense. I was determined to prove that even without Jake, I could make my life flourish. After registering for the national exams, I went to the state-run photo studio in town to take my ID photo for the exam slip. Never expected the town to be that small. There, of all places, I ran into Tara Lee and Jake again, Lily Tang. The lovely Tara Lee stood radiant in the street, a stark contrast against the thickly bundled crowd and the dust-gray urban backdrop. In today's terms, she was the baddest babe on the block. Suddenly I understood why Tara had haunted Jake's memories all his life. The beauty I'd grown accustomed to became, in Jake's mind, an eternal marvel that defined his youth. I opened my mouth to speak, then immediately frowned, because 3 paces behind Tara stood Jake, arms laden with packages. In our past life, before the national exams, Jake had juggled work and study simultaneously. He was running like a perpetual motion machine, steam practically rising from his head. This lifetime's quest was to win the fair maiden's hand. Truly, not the slightest bit anxious anymore. "Lily, what brings you to the county office today?" Tara Lee had already pushed through the crowd to stand before me. Her eyes crinkled into crescent moons when she saw the photo envelope from the studio in my hand. "What's with the studio visit? No festivals coming up, these for matchmaking photos?" "Exactly right. For matchmaking," I admitted freely, tucking the photo envelope into my breast pocket. Tara studied me with that knowing half-smile of hers. If you're so eager to marry, why come to the county office? Don't tell me your family arranged county-level matchmaking. Just then, Jakey came panting up behind us. Tara introduced me with deliberate sarcasm in her voice. Jake, meet Lily Tang, my childhood friend. She's the one who threw me from the mule cart that winter. Lucky the snow was deep, or I'd have broken. I cut her off. Tara, if not for that bruised backside, would you have this fellow chasing after you now? Tara choked momentarily before recovering. Every cloud has its silver lining. Meet Jake He, the rustic youth I rescued. We're getting married this new year. I stared at this pale, refined rustic youth before me, my chest still burning with indignation. Well, congratulations to you both. I'd planned to exchange a few frosty pleasantries before making a quick escape. But then several rustic youth from Jake He's homestead happened by and stopped to greet him. One young man grinned. Comrade Lily Tang, you're the only senior girl from Clearwater Village who signed up for the national exams. Do you have enough study materials? Come to the homestead sometime. We can review together. The words hung in the air. Jake He's gaze locked onto me, brimming with startled scrutiny. Tara Lee's eyes nearly bulged from their sockets. Lily Tang, you registered for the national exams? The oblivious rustic youth nodded. Yeah, we signed up together at the registration office today. After triple confirming with him that I'd indeed applied, Tara Lee launched into relentless disparagement. Lily, why would you take the exams? A mud-legged peasant like you. What makes you think you'd pass? This is utterly ridiculous. The rustic youth frowned in unison. Comrade, must you be so venomous? The papers clearly state anyone eligible can apply. What's there to mock? Since when can't peasants take exams? Aren't you a farmer too? Never before had Tara Lee faced such collective reproach. Her face flushed, then paled before she finally redirected her fury toward Jake He. Jake He, all those people were bullying me. Why didn't you say a single word in my defense? Jake remained frozen in shock, staring at me without moving. From his reaction, I could already guess. Jake He had been reborn. Tara Lee hurled the gift on the ground straight at Jake. Then she turned and stormed off in a huff. Only then did Jake snap out of it. He seemed to have something to say to me. But with several rustic youth present, he hesitated before grabbing the scattered items and chasing after Tara, who was already far ahead. The rustic youth shook their heads and murmured among themselves. Sure, some collectives bar people from the national exams based on family background, but I've never heard of a farmer's child being denied. Jake's girl is downright vicious. Look at him trailing after her like a whipped dog. If she moves into the rustic youth quarters, living with her will be hell. A thread of unease coiled in my chest. Jake must have realized I'd been reborn too when I signed up for the national exams. That ungrateful bastard. Who knew what he'd try next? And Tara, after failing to humiliate me today, she'd probably stir up trouble back in the village. Should have checked the almanac before leaving home today. On the road back to the village, I rode the mule cart, listening to the wheels creak along the snow-blanketed mountain path. The 20-league journey from the village to the county office took 3 to 5 hours on foot. Clearwater Village was truly destitute and remote. If this village held any real promise, would generations of my ancestors have remained dirt-poor farmers trapped in these mountain gullies? This lifetime, if Jake, he passed the national exams and took Tara Lee away with him, their golden names on the merit list, their wedding candles burning bright, what then would become of me? Marry some supposedly promising man again, then wait for his efforts to pull me out? Wouldn't that mean gambling another lifetime on some man's conscience? Rather than pin my hopes on another man, I'd grit my teeth and test my own way out. My parents eventually discovered I'd registered for the national exams. They were simple, earthbound farmers, unversed in changing times, unwilling to let me take risks. Tang, you barely attended one proper year of high school, they said. What possessed you to register? With all those educated rustic youth candidates, what chance could you possibly have? Clutching my books, I muttered into my chest. Men die by comparison. Goods get discarded. I need a different life. For no one's sake but my own. no review outlines, no study materials. Yet, I managed to grasp the entire high school curriculum. Day and night, I scribbled and scratched on the Kong bed, mumbling and reciting without pause. My parents watched me, driving myself to exhaustion. They assumed Tara Lee's marriage had unsettled me. Shouldn't we ask someone to start looking for matches? Fine, I'll go ask my brother's family tomorrow. I stopped leaving the house altogether, doing my best to avoid Tara Lee and Jake. But Tara clearly wasn't ready to let things between us rest. She came to my house again, wearing a new crimson jacket. See this? Jake bought it for me. The prettiest one at the village co-op, cost a fortune in ration coupons. Everyone says it looks perfect on me. I had no desire to engage with her, just wanted her to finish her performance and leave. Tara's spoiled temper flared when she saw my books covering the Kong. She grabbed one carelessly and tore it apart with a single motion. I'll teach you to study. In an instant, dozens of pages from my most crucial review book lay in shreds. I moved to stop her, but too late, only salvaged half the volume. As she tore through the textbook, Tara declared with haughty triumph, "You just want to better yourself, don't you? Overtake me someday? Maybe marry some rustic youth? Listen well, I won't allow it." Finally, with a deliberate flourish, countless paper scraps fluttered down before me like celestial blossoms scattering across the sky. Smack! My raised palm landed with unerring precision across Tara Lee's fair, delicate cheek. But then the door curtain was flung aside. Jake burst in, snow clinging to his clothes, seizing my right wrist and slamming me against the wall. My right wrist cracked against the wall. A searing, bone-deep pain shot through me. The winter storm outside howled into the room, so bitterly cold. "Tara, you all right? Don't worry, I've got you." "The young Jake," he murmured soothingly to the trembling girl in his arms. When he turned and saw me clutching my injured wrist while glaring daggers at him, he froze mid-motion. What a shameless pair of snakes. I'd already stepped aside for their precious romance. Why did they have to barge into my home, tear up my teaching materials, and injure my writing hand? Lee charged in, taking in my injured state. He grabbed the broom and began driving the despicable couple toward the door. How dare you come here to bully my sister?" But a child stood no chance against two grown adults. Jake caught the broom handle effortlessly. The broom's bristles scratched Tara Lee's face several times. Her face was her most prized possession. She grabbed Lee by the hair and slapped him hard. "First my sister hits me. Now, even you dare strike me." With that, she delivered two more stinging slaps. Crack, crack. Jake stood frozen in shock. By the time he snapped out of it to intervene, Dee's lips were already split from the blows. The boy's young eyes burned with hatred as he glared at them. Tara recoiled, releasing her grip. I'd never imagined Tara could be so brutal toward her own brother. With my uninjured left hand, I snatched a wooden pole from the corner and swung it hard at Jake. Yelping in pain, Jake retreated, yet still shielded the shrieking Tara in his arms as they stumbled out through our gate. Our yard was just fenced with wooden rails and hedges. Neighbors had gathered at the entrance, murmuring among themselves. I raised my voice sharply. Tara Lee tore up my textbooks, threatened to stop me taking the national exams. Then she and her boyfriend ganged up to beat both me and my brother. Everyone here witnessed it. Let them judge. What right did you have? Tara seemed to awaken then, noticing the accusing fingers and whispers around her, clenching her teeth. She outright denied everything. That's absolute nonsense. It was Jake, and I who came to announce our marriage plans, and you two siblings started hurling insults first. That's why I reacted. She nudged Jake, beside her. Tell them, isn't that right? Jake, stood there dumbfounded. Never had he imagined that the pure, flawless moonbeam of his heart could twist truths so shamelessly. No different from any village shrew. Tara Lee pressed him. Say something. Cat got your tongue? But Jake's gaze first went to me, gripping a wooden staff, panting with rage, leaving him torn between choices. Tara Lee shrieked. Why do you keep staring at that country bumpkin? Why won't you even speak up for me anymore? I couldn't be bothered wasting breath on these two. Grabbing my younger brother Lee by the arm, the half-grown boy, his pride deeply wounded, had already begun sobbing. Sis. I swallowed back tears. What's there to cry about? Come on, we'll find someone who'll hear us out properly before we start wailing. We stormed into the mayor's house, planted ourselves in the courtyard, and wailed at the top of our lungs. Neighbors swarmed in after us. Jake, he among them, the mayor's wife, overwhelmed, sent her grandson running to fetch the mayor. How many years had it been since Tara Lee caused such an uproar? The latest incident involved those two boys fighting over Tara Lee's affections, which escalated into a brawl at our doorstep. Jake, he heard every word of it. Before long, the mayor and my parents arrived one after another. My mother rushed over in quick strides, pulling Lee close to inspect his injuries with heartache. Who did this? The nail marks dug so deep, they drew blood. These will scar for sure. Lily Tang, how could you let this happen to your brother? My mother instinctively scolded me, then noticed my pale face. Lily, what's wrong with you now? I had no mind for explanations, only for fighting. The mayor and the chattering villagers had already pieced together what happened. She then shouted at the mayor's wife. Where's Tara? She's something else. Look how she's beaten Lily and her brother. The mayor's wife muttered defiantly. Dee's nearly grown. How could she possibly have done that to him? Lee sprang to his feet, leaping onto the millstone and yelling, It was your Tara who did this. If she weren't the mayor's daughter, you think I'd let her lay a finger on me? Not only did she barge into our home, tear up my sister's books, and hit Lily, she even brought along that rustic youth boyfriend of hers to gang up on me. Wah. The mayor's face flushed with humiliation. Spotting Jake, his grim expression in the crowd, he immediately pointed him out. Aren't you a rustic youth? Where's Tara Lee? Since when did she start assaulting people after getting involved with you? Jake, he averted his eyes, hastily dismissing it as a misunderstanding. The mayor's wife grew agitated. Then, where is Tara Lee? The country doctor happened to pass the mayor's house with his two apprentices, one grown, one barely 10. The child piped up. We saw Sister Tara heading to the county office earlier. She didn't even greet us. Sounds like fleeing the scene to me. I smirked coldly. If you don't believe me, come see the torn textbooks she left at my place. National exam materials aren't easy to come by. Need I say more? And my brother's face. The mayor's expression darkened dangerously. Father quickly shielded me behind him. The elder apprentice, a man in his early 20s, stepped forward. Hold still. Are you injured somewhere? Only then did I notice the searing pain in my right wrist. After a brief examination, the apprentice frowned, dislocated. Jake's face drained of color, his gaze shadowed with guilt. My father, silent until now, asked the mayor with bloodshot eyes, Mayor, we're poor lower-middle peasants who never sought trouble. Why must my daughter be barred from the national exams and have her wrist broken for it? The mayor was thoroughly backed into a corner and could only make promises. Tara Lee, I'll drag her back by force if I must, to apologize to your family. The country doctor's senior apprentice set my broken bone. Sweat poured down my face from the pain. Only one thing mattered now. Could I still write? The senior apprentice, a handsome young man, gave a faint smile at my question. You could try. The mere attempt to grip a pen brought tears to my eyes. My heart shattered like icicles snapping from frozen eaves. This lifetime, I won't marry Jake He. The national exams were my greatest chance to change my destiny. What right did Jake he have to make me forfeit that? Days passed. Tara Lee still hadn't appeared. Dee Lee and other village children learned. She'd fled to her second brother's county home after causing trouble. There she idled daily, bossing her sister-in-law to cook and sew for her, living utterly without a care. Her promised apology was just empty courtesy. In my past life, perhaps our peace lasted only because I'd been inferior to her in every way, lacking even a Jake he to provoke her competitiveness. Tearing apart our hollow pretense of friendship early this time was no real loss. The sky darkened. I stood beneath the eaves, my mood suffocating. Lily Tang, beyond the wooden fence, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Jake He. Haven't you and Tara Lee done enough to ruin me? What more do you want? Jake still tried to enter my yard. I didn't realize it was this serious. I lowered my voice to a growl. Skulking around in the dark? One shout of thief, and you'll be beaten to death. Believe it. Jake froze, his pale face reflected against the snow. Lily, I never meant to hurt you. I just needed to know one thing. Did you come back too? My gaze caught Jake's anxious scrutiny. Decades of knowing him in a past life made me press instinctively. Did you deliberately provoke Tara Lee into confronting me? Was that why she tore on my textbooks? Jake was struck speechless. That settles it. For all his elite education, Jake still reeked of that scholar's cowardice. Always hesitating, never decisive, too afraid to ask directly. He needed proof. And knowing Tara's volatile temper, he'd sicked her on me as a test. He wanted me flustered, desperate, just so he could catch a slip. Jake, you spineless worm, always hiding behind women to fight your battles. How very brave of you. I knew it, as willful as Tara Lee can be. She's never completely lost her mind like this before. Jake, he grew agitated and rushed to explain. Lily Tang, you really came back. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just praised you in front of Tara, and she misunderstood that I had feelings for you. I spat in disgust. Bullshit. You definitely said more than just a few nice words. But that doesn't matter now, since you and Tara tried to ruin me. Don't blame me for what comes next. I grabbed the nearest weapon and shouted into the night sky. Thieves. There are thieves in my house. Several neighborhood dogs began howling, and the sounds of doors opening echoed down the street. Lee came bursting out immediately. Damn it, you again? Jake panicked and cried out. Lily Tang, you can't do this to me. Can't do this to him? Then what should I do instead? In my past life, I exhausted myself for that house we shared, working tirelessly, sacrificing everything. And in the end, on his deathbed, he still drew lines between us, regretting he never had the chance to marry another woman. This lifetime, I didn't even want to know him. And yet, here he is, sabotaging my national exams. 2 lifetimes of debts. He thinks a half-assed, I didn't mean to will cover it all. Beat him within an inch of his life. Lee grabbed a carrying pole and chased after Jake, landing several solid whacks on him. But Jake still managed to escape. You bastard. Next time you show your face here, I'll send you straight to hell. Word quickly spread about Jake coming to apologize at our place, only to be chased off by Lee. I expected Tara Lee to be even angrier and brace myself for her inevitable outburst. Yet 3 or 4 days passed. Tara never showed up. The mayor's wife tossed us some mountain provisions, like alms to beggars. That counted as their apology. My father silently gathered the items. But when my mother saw, she immediately wanted to throw them out. Back when it was just you and me, I could let anything slide. But now Tara dares to come into our home and beat our children. Li Tao, can't you even say something? My father restrained his temper and said to her, Do I need to remind you what happened before? Have you forgotten what the mayor's sons did at the county office? He's the mayor. That he's bowing his head at all is already something. My mother noticed I was still studying. That unresolved anger still churned inside her. Even if you pass the exams, what difference will it make? I'd already made my plans. I'll apply to teacher training colleges, tuition free with living stipends. My mother asked bitterly, but if you leave, will you ever come back? If I marry him, can you guarantee I'll return? Mother replied, if you don't come back, what will happen to Lee and your brothers? What will become of us? In my past life, after marriage, my world revolved around Jake's career. In their twilight years, my parents lived comfortably with my brothers' families. This wasn't the real reason Mother wanted to stop me. Of course, I won't return. I want to take you, Father, and my brothers away from this mountain hollow, from this village where we're forced to bow our heads. Mother froze, then turned away with suppressed sobs. In these times, traveling elsewhere required endless paperwork and permits. Relocating an entire family? Pure fantasy. Mother, someone in this family must take the first step out. Tara Lee never returned from the county office. Jake, he visited the mayor's house repeatedly, waiting in vain for his beloved. The final time, he was outright turned away at the mayor's door. Everything waits until after your national exams. The mayor suspected Jake. He wasn't as upright as he appeared. Within weeks of knowing Tara, he provoked her into fighting me. After the national exam announcement, many rustic youth from the homestead prepared to take the tests. Village youths buzzed with anticipation. Even someone like me, a burly, unremarkable country girl, signed up. Jake, he claimed he'd registered for the exams, but instead of cracking open a single textbook, all he did was moon over Tara Lee. How was this any different from those lecherous fools who used to orbit our village just to catch glimpses of her? Lee returned from her reconnaissance mission and delivered the intelligence report. Jake, he had retreated to the rustic youth dorm to study. That icebox of a room forced him to layer scarves, hats, and quilted jackets beneath his blanket cocoon. The idiot nearly froze to death. Forgot to stock charcoal. Couldn't even light the powdered remnants for warmth. When other rustic youth came to help, he tried fueling the lamp with fuel oil instead of kerosene. The room filled with black smoke. I nearly died laughing. After we married, I handled every household chore, while Jake remained the type to step over a toppled oil jar without writing it. Now reborn, what could this pampered lord, decades removed from domestic duties, possibly recall about charcoal stoves or lamp maintenance? Dealey doubled over with laughter. And yet he's still asking about Tara Lee's situation at the county office, trying to send her messages. My grip tightened around the textbook cover, freezing and half-starved. Yet he finds leisure for lustful thoughts. In our past life, fearing I'd disrupt his national exams prep, I delivered charcoal, cleaned, and cooked for him, all while he basked in my kindness, secretly pining for Tara Lee in his heart. What a shameless bastard who freeloads off women while still lusting after others. Lee couldn't follow my torrent of words. Huh? I roared. Nothing. It's nothing. The national exams drew nearer each day. Just thinking how I'd wasted my life for that bastard made my blood boil. This fury became an endless fuel for my studies. Mornings for literature and politics. Afternoons for history and geography. Evenings reserved for the dreaded mathematics. When my father woke at night, he'd see me muttering like a witch over the oil lamp. He told my mother, "Tang, she's possessed." Mother said nothing, but next day brought the country doctor's senior apprentice to our house. The apprentice carried a box bristling with silver needles. Beads of sweat rolled down my forehead. Will it hurt? His smile was unexpectedly charming. You could try. Might as well try. I conceded. After he needled my wrist, the pain gradually eased. I tentatively picked up my writing brush again. Slow work, but work nonetheless. As the apprentice packed his kit to leave, I suddenly called out, "What should I call you, doctor?" He turned, back straight, shoulders squared, carrying himself with an elegance rare among country folk. Every inch the dashing physician. I suppose rebirth has made me feel younger at heart. My cheeks flushed unbidden. My surname is Pan. Pan as in Pan N, the legendary handsome scholar. Dr. Pan chuckled lightly, eyeing the chaotic pile of books on my Kong bed. No wonder you're taking the national exams. You've actually read a few. TCH. Who does he think he's looking down on? Young Dr. Pan gave me 3 more acupuncture sessions. Through persistent practice, my handwriting stopped slanting. When exam day comes, I'll keep my answers concise to minimize writing. Inspired by me, Lee also settled down to study. My teacher says education will matter now. Even the younger kids stop their mischief. Those with books read, those without drew with charcoal on old newspapers. While winter raged outside, the seeds of learning quietly sprouted among the children. When my parents returned, they exchanged glances before retreating to the outer room. 3 days remained until the national exams. News from Tara Lee reached the homestead from town. The messenger only confessed the truth after relentless pestering from J.K. You'll find out eventually. Tara's second brother set her up with someone new in town. The man's got a state position. She'll become a city girl after marriage. Jake stood thunderstruck. Then what am I? I've done so much for Tara. The messenger looked rather awkward. Over the years, plenty have circled around Tara, but the mayor and his wife chased them all off. Besides, you've only known her a few days. Who even knows about you two? No marriage application was filed. How can this count? Jake, he couldn't accept it and insisted on going to the county town to see for himself. The other rustic youth urged him to focus on the national exams first. His own future mattered more than Tara Lee. Distraught, Jake somehow ended up at my doorstep again. This time, it was my father who met him at the gate. My dad scowled. You again? What do you want now? Jake blurted out, Dad. Huh? My father's beard practically bristled. Jake quickly corrected himself. Uncle, I just wanted to apologize to Lily Tang in person. My dad gave a dry chuckle. We've heard your apology once. Don't need to hear it again. Get going. Jake refused to leave, circling the courtyard gate with my father, as if determined to get inside and see me. A neighbor passing by asked my dad, Who's this now? Seizing an opening, Jake pushed past the door and lifted the curtain, stepping into our outer room. Dr. Pan had just finished giving me an injection. My wrist was still in Dr. Pan's grip. What are you doing? Jake, he completely ignored my mother and younger brothers on the other side of the room, acting like a cuckolded husband, catching his wife in the act. Dealey kicked Jake squarely in the back first. What the hell are you trying to pull? My father entered the room then, grabbing Jake, who'd been knocked to the floor, by the collar and dragging him outside. My brothers rushed out too, jostling each other for a chance to beat him up. A neighbor made a half-hearted attempt to intervene. He is, after all, the mayor's future son-in-law. Don't go overboard. Timid as my father was, even he had his limits. Son-in-law my ass. Rustic youth my ass. You saw it yourself. Barging into my house in broad daylight. What was he trying to do? Think we're pushovers? I leaned on the windowsill, watching Jake scamper off like a scalded dog. Dr. Pan asked curiously, what did that guy even come here for? What else? The Tara Lee route didn't pan out for him, so now he's trying his luck with his reborn old wife instead. Pah! The sheer audacity. Exam day arrived. Just in case, I went to stay with relatives in the county town a day early. Jake and his fellow rustic youth got special treatment, hauled in by dedicated hauler trucks. The county high school was packed inside and out with students ready to stake everything on this chance. As the examination hall doors opened, the crowd streamed in like flowing water toward their respective test rooms. The exams lasted only 2 days, with midday breaks in between. I made every effort to avoid running into Jake. Yet, after finishing the final subject, I unexpectedly came face to face with him across the street while waiting for the bus. His brows were tightly knit, and he ignored the rustic youth speaking beside him. Finally, as the truck engine roared to life, Jake leaped down and shouted to those aboard, I must go find Tara Lee. Even at this critical juncture of his life, he couldn't let go of Tara. Coincidentally, the bus began moving just then, the conductor barking into the crowded compartment. Stand properly. Sit tight. We're departing. Hearing this, Jake glanced toward the bus, and, sure enough, spotted me pressed against the glass window. He realized then that I'd witnessed his entire performance. The sheer vexation on his face. Some men are just incorrigible, yearning for his white moonlight, while keeping escape routes open for his past life wife. As the bus pulled away, I couldn't be bothered to spare Jake another glance. I returned to the village. Lee was more anxious than anyone, demanding to know how I'd performed. I filled every answer blank. The scoring's up to the graders now. In my memory, the preparation time for this year's national exams was too short. Math was manageable, but other subjects seemed to lack definitive answers, though the questions were easy for me. I couldn't afford to be too subjective. Who knew how the grading would turn out? I finished my exams, but it was my father who grew anxious. He smoked indoors and out. Our house became so hazy with smoke it might as well have been an immortal's retreat. My mother summoned Dr. Pan again. I was baffled. Hadn't my wrist healed already? My mother pursed her lips. Your future's still uncertain. Someone has to secure it for you. You've met young Pan. His family may be poor, but his looks are more than enough for someone like you. Mom, if I'd known in my past life you'd arrange someone like this for me, I wouldn't have bothered trying at all. In these times, an unmarried girl has only 2 paths. Work first, marry later. marry first, work later. Either way, staying single wasn't an option. I wasn't entirely confident I'd pass the national exams. My mother added, "The Pan family lives just a few miles from our village. Their background isn't ideal, but he's a decent man. Tara, Lee will return eventually, and the mayor will stir trouble. If you marry out, we might avoid it all." I agreed. Still, I asked Paul Yun, "Are you truly willing?" I'm not much to look at, tall and broad-shouldered, with a fiery temper and a sharp tongue. I listed all the criticisms people had about my flaws. Paul Yun flashed that devastatingly handsome smile of his again. I may be good-looking, but that just invites unwanted attention. My family background's problematic too. People say even if a rare mushroom grew from rotten soil, it'd still only be fit for pigs. Would you hold that against me? A sudden pang of sorrow struck me. Never. I think you're wonderful as you are. I like you precisely because you're already so good. Paul Yun's face flushed crimson instantly. In my past life, we started with nothing. Yet Jake, he and I fought our way from that mountain village all the way to the southern metropolis, building a respectable fortune. This time around, I've got a lifetime's extra wisdom and experience. Paul Yun's looks and charm surpassed Jake's by leaps and bounds. However, Paul and I end up living together. Just having that gorgeous face around would be suffocating through life with Jake. Back then, marriage was refreshingly simple. Paul and I filed our marriage papers, bought red fabric at the county town, and exchanged ration coupons for candies and pastries. That covered most of it. The approval should come through after New Year's. Then I'll move to your place, and we'll build our life properly. Paul hesitated. You truly don't mind my problematic family background? I grinned conspiratorially. All I know is, if I let this chance slip, there won't be another shop down the road. Amidst the laughter and chatter, the streets swarmed with onlookers gathered around some spectacle. Being tall finally came in handy. My gaze pierced through layers of the crowd until I saw the scene at its center. It was Tara Lee. She wore a brand new padded jacket, her hair freshly permed. Her leg was clutched by a beggar. The beggar wept bitterly, refusing to let her go no matter what. Only by the voice did I realize it was Jake He. Filthy from head to toe, utterly revolting. "Tara, you can't leave. What am I supposed to do?" Tara Lee spat in disgust. "Go die, wherever you belong." She then screamed for help. The crowd began shoving and striking. Jake He, battered and in pain, finally released his grip. He wailed loudly, his cries thick with anguish. As the crowd dispersed, I quickly tugged Paul Yun away. Paul asked, puzzled, "Wasn't that the rustic youth who broke your wrist? So Tara Lee's the woman who told him to die wherever?" Reality outdoes the most absurd theater. Judging by Jake's tattered clothes, he must have been hiding in town searching for Tara since the national exams ended. To avoid suspicion, I had Paul Yun send word back to the homestead, urging the rustic youth to rescue Jake. He immediately. I couldn't let Jake freeze to death so easily on the streets. I wanted him alive and utterly humiliated. Our marriage papers with Paul Yun were unexpectedly approved just before Lunar New Year. The mayor's household learned I'd married Paul Yun, a country doctor with problematic family background, no official position, trudging through mountains to treat patients. Tara Lee got married too. She wed into an official's family. Her husband not only had government tenure, but also housing allocation privileges. The mayor's wife naturally reveled in merciless mockery. Lily Tang actually dared compare herself to our Tara. She sneered, only to end up with that nobody. Some villagers murmured, young Dr. Paul's skilled and kind-hearted, but others countered. The Pans were landlords. Their descendants will rot in these backwaters. Lily's parents didn't even think twice before marrying her off. The villagers fell silent. Paul heard the gossip, bitterness settling in his chest, knowing the coming policy shifts. I remained utterly unshaken. Don't listen to their nonsense, I told him. Everything will change in a few years. Then I'll take us all south, to live where seas meet skies and spring blossoms bloom. Paul Yun swallowed my empty promises whole. Oceanside villas and spring blossoms? Exactly. Paul, I believe in you. Our newlywed days were sweeter than any honey dream I'd ever known. 3 days after the wedding, we returned to my parents' home. Tara Lee and her husband arrived in a hauler truck for the Lunar New Year visit. The truck bed overflowed with city-bought gifts in woven baskets. Villagers lining the road were showered with candies and pastries. The mayor even set off firecrackers. Half the village buzzed with their celebration. Our homecoming felt desolate by comparison. Paul and I carried only meager packets of sweets. The family gathered around the Kong bed stove for a muted meal. When firecrackers popped nearby, my younger siblings fidgeted eagerly. Ellie silenced them with a glare. Neighbor children taunted them at our gate. Why won't you come play? The mayor's handing out candy. It's so sweet. Father shooed them away. Mother divided our few candies among the boys. Paul's ears burned crimson through it all. On our return journey, he muttered, "I'm sorry. Should every son-in-law poorer than the mayor apologize?" Paul Yun remained silent. I stretched out both hands and said, "With 4 hands between us, we'll manage to build a home, enough to leave this godforsaken valley." The blizzard held around us. On the road, out of the village, we actually ran into Tara Lee and her husband. Tara was wearing another flashy new outfit. Her gaunt husband stood beside her, looking brittle as kindling. His face wouldn't win any beauty contests. They were boarding their hauler truck when Tara's sharp eyes caught sight of me. I wore no new clothes, let alone commanded an imposing hauler for transport. The only luxury I had was Paul Yun, my husband with a face sculpted by the gods themselves. Tara's chin had been slightly raised, but at the sight of Paul, her expression soured immediately. She'd always been single-minded like that, even after surpassing me in every conceivable way. The slightest deficiency would still needle her. Noticing her pause, her husband asked, "Someone you know?" Tara deliberately raised her voice. "Hardly. I don't just associate with any stray mud on the roadside." A bizarre shriek came from nowhere. All heads snapped toward the sound. J.K. There he stood, unkempt beard, greasy hair obscuring his eyes, the very picture of dishevelment. Tara Lee's face turned ashen with fright as she scrambled into the truck, urging, "Go, go, nothing but bad luck with the people we're meeting today." Her husband frowned, giving her a puzzled sideways glance. The hauler truck honked once before driving past Jake. Jake wasn't foolish enough to chase after Tara's departing truck. He just stood dejected by the roadside, as if the vast world offered him no path forward. TCH, pathetic as a stray dog. I pulled Paul Yun away with me. Paul kept glancing back, over his shoulder. Weren't that rustic youth and Tara getting married? What happened between them? His moonlit sweetheart had gone to the city, while his mosquito blood-stained ex-wife had moved on. What could Jake do now but watch? Who knows? He's unwanted goods now. After New Year's, word spread that the county education office had posted a red honor roll, the preliminary national exam selection list. Paul suggested, "Should we go check?" I watched the blizzard raging outside. The county town was 20 kilometers away. Walking there in this, we'd freeze solid, even if I'm on that preliminary list. It's not final confirmation. We should wait. But Lee came running from my parents' home to our newlywed cottage. "Sis, you passed the first cut. The county office wants you for your health check." Immediately, Lee heard from others that several rustic youth groups had gone to the county office to check results. And my name actually was. Paul Yun and I were beside ourselves with joy. Several homesteads organized rustic youth to take hauler trucks for hospital health checks, and we hitched a ride. I was so thrilled I forgot all about the awkwardness of possibly running into J.K. The health check went smooth as silk, built like an ox. I passed with flying colors. My form got stamped approved in bold letters. But while queuing at the county hospital, I overheard gossip about a woman beaten by her new husband at the gynecology ward. That shameless hussy, married barely 2 weeks, yet 2 months pregnant. Whose family is she from? Hush, the household. The country girl had no self-respect, didn't even know she was pregnant. When the doctor exposed it, she clung to her husband's arm like a child, sniveling and cooing. Her man laid into her. A few slaps shut her up. They say some rustic youth from Homestead did it. My ears pricked at certain keywords. Surely, not such a coincidence. On the return trip, I didn't mention it to Paul Yun. Next day, Lee came sprinting with fresh intel. Sis, Tara, Lee got thrown out by her in-laws, face swollen purple from the beating. Her husband smashed up the mayor's house, calling her a filthy hussy. Tara, Lee's second brother, took some men to the homestead, but Jake, he caught wind of it and fled first. My mind reeled with shock. That bastard Jake, he couldn't even wait after being reborn before forcing the issue. Tara, Lee's got nerve too. After going that far, she still dared Mary into town to climb the social ladder. If not for this era's lack of proper education on such matters, Tara, Lee might have actually gotten away with it. Bumbling her way through a hospital checkup, snapping back to reality, I hastily covered Lee's mouth and warned him, not a word of this. Go home and tell Mom and Dad to stay in as much as possible. Lee looked puzzled. Why? Tara, Lee's petty. If I don't suck up to her, she'll take it as a mortal insult. If she learns I might get into college while she's fallen so low, you think she won't make more trouble? Lee snorted. She dare show her face after this? She claims she only got with Jake, because he knows the county magistrate. Is she brain damaged? How would the magistrate even know some nobody like Jake? Oh, they know each other all right. In the same way Jake knows the entire county leadership, from one group photo when they came to congratulate him on getting into college. That kind of knowing barely counts at all. Lee added nonchalantly, oh, right, Jake, he failed the exams. Only then did it dawn on me that I hadn't seen Jake at the health check that day. Well, guess we're fated to remain strangers this lifetime. Absurd, ludicrous. Early March brought another freak snowstorm. My acceptance letter never arrived. So I went to inquire at the homestead near Paul's place. The rustic youth there were surprisingly helpful. When they heard I'd passed the preliminary exams through self-study, some wore expressions of startled pity. Out of their group of 18 examinees, only 2 had cleared the first round. Not everyone possesses the foresight to seize opportunity when it knocks. I wasn't some reincarnated genius, just a girl gambling on borrowed confidence. In the end, I trekked to the collective with those 2 qualified youths to collect our acceptance letters. The clerk proved unexpectedly kind. Chuckling when he saw my name, Lily Tang, you've got friends. Folks from your village kept asking when your letter would arrive. My stomach dropped. I stuffed the letter inside my innermost layer of clothing, too scared to go home. I had someone discreetly summon Paul to the homestead. Despite the bitter cold, Paul arrived with sweat beading his forehead. After you left, several local troublemakers came to the house looking for trouble. When I visited my father-in-law's place, Lee mentioned that Tara Lee had already made a scene at your home. I bit my lip hard. What a bunch of bastards. Paul Yin looked at my acceptance letter with a radiant smile. Tang, you finally made it out. I was the first female college student from our village. Well-wishers crowded my parents' home, only to learn I was already married. By the time they tracked down the pans, my in-laws claimed I'd already left for university, but that didn't dampen their enthusiasm. My success brought honor to both families. Tara, Lee still wanted to stir up trouble, but after her miscarriage, she came screaming through the snow to my house in a hysterical rage. Now, her health's completely broken. She's bedridden. Tara, Lee had been set up with her current husband by her second brother, but because of Tara's scandals, she made countless enemies for him. The mayor said, let her die, for all I care. His wife refused, weeping as she fetched the country doctor. Tara knew the doctor's senior apprentice was my husband, so she started spinning wild lies, blaming her own mess on me, then ended with that creepy giggle of hers. The country doctor was a kind-hearted soul. My senior apprentice was the one who treated Lily Tang's dislocated hand. If not for your earlier fuss, those 2 youngsters wouldn't have had this fateful connection. Child, you're still young. Who exactly are you trying to punish with this behavior? Tara Lee covered her face with a quilt and wailed uncontrollably. Afterward, Tara lost her parents' former affection and was frequently beaten and verbally abused. The gossip swirling about her was particularly vicious. Her mental state deteriorated noticeably. Jake, he was the brigade's famously meticulous accountant. His ledgers were always immaculate. In his past life, his inflexibility had quietly made him many enemies. Now, having failed the national exams, and with his history involving Tara Lee, many speculated he was the father of Tara's lost child. The cruel words poured into his ears like wagon loads of gravel. What galled him most was that I, of all people, got into State Teachers College. Regret consumed him. He began haunting the vicinity of my family home like a restless ghost, only to be pelted with stones by D. Lee and my other brothers. "You bastard, you're the one who dislocated my sister's hand, nearly cost our family a college graduate. He's the one carrying on with that hussy Tara Lee, helping her bully my sister. Adulterers, shameless." The village children's taunts became relentless. The mayor's family reputation grew, increasingly tarnished. Eventually, during one of Jake's return trips from our village to the homestead, he took a bad fall and broke his leg. By the time someone found him, he was already half dead. The country doctor they summoned couldn't treat such injuries. Only then was he leisurely transported to the county hospital. The county hospital staff took one look and said, "Why so late? He'll be permanently disabled now." Then came the perfect coincidence. Investigators discovered Jake had embezzled numerous ration coupons during his time as accountant, all spent on Tara Lee. From the first moment I saw Jake shower Tara with extravagant gifts, I knew he must have dipped into public funds. The reason was simple. In his previous life as a rustic youth, Jake's living stipend had been meager, and his accounting work for the collective was purely voluntary. This lifetime, where did he suddenly get extra coupons to exchange for all those luxuries? In the end, out of pity for his disability, they didn't send him to prison, but any future hopes of returning to the city or taking the national exams were permanently dashed. Jake, he would pay for his crimes by remaining forever in this backwater village where he'd been stationed. My anonymous tip-off hadn't been in vain. 3 years later, Paul Yun was admitted to the state medical school. My husband and I reunited in the provincial capital. That summer vacation, we returned to our hometown together. This time I dared go back precisely because the mayor's family had fallen into utter disgrace. My mother had been waiting for us at the village entrance since dawn. 3 years. "Finally, I get to see you again," Mom said, her voice thick with emotion, passing the former mayor's house. I was startled to find the building collapsed. Mom's expression darkened as she hurried us along. Only when we were safely home, seated on the warm Kong bed, did Father explain what had happened. "After you left for university, the city began exonerating old cases. The mayor's sons were all exposed. The second son was the worst. His county house was seized from others. Even his wife was forced into marriage. All came to light. The mayor had a stroke when he heard. Tara Lee, always unstable, set the house ablaze, playing with fire at midnight. The old couple was rescued but died within months in their makeshift shelter." D. Lee interjected sharply. "What tragedy. Remember how that mayor bullied us?" My younger brother added, "Their deaths still haunt our village. When Uncle Lou went to the county office recently, people said our village was famous, producing both scholars and hussies. He nearly fought them." I listened calmly. In my past life, it had unfolded much the same. Tara Lee did marry well, but her brother's crimes eventually destroyed her happiness too. Her husband fought with her and demanded a divorce. Accustomed to being spoiled, her temper flared, and in a moment of despair, she drank pesticide. She was only in her 20s when she passed, because of her tragically premature death. I've always felt deep sympathy for her. Despite any unpleasantness from our childhood, I choose to remember only her bright, spirited charm. After being reborn, I was determined to change the course of her doomed marriage. So I orchestrated her first meeting with J.K. If it turned out to be unrequited, if his heart yearned while hers remained indifferent, then so be it. But if they were mutually smitten, Jake would get his happy ending, and Tara's fate would surely be better than the quarrels and suicide of her past life. As for me, I go my own way, leaving them to theirs. Who could have predicted the fireworks between them this time around? Jake, scheming and unscrupulous, kept making one blunder after another. Tara, willful and insatiable, always wanted more than she had. I couldn't help but marvel at how they'd engineered their own ruin. After dinner, my husband and I took a walk through the village. D. Lee had already grown taller than me. With an air of secrecy, he led us to a dilapidated house. Sis, this is where he and Tara Lee are staying. Jake and Tara, so they actually rekindled things. The door creaked open with a groan. We quickly hid ourselves. He emerged, disheveled and leaning on a crutch. The house was so dilapidated it didn't even have a courtyard wall. Setting his crutch aside, he labored to pump the bellows, preparing to cook. Moments later, a wild-haired woman came laughing and stumbling out. Upon closer look, I noticed a frayed rope still tied around her waist. He froze briefly before shouting and hobbling after her. But how could a cripple on crutches ever catch an energetic madwoman? I couldn't believe my eyes. Was that Tara Lee? D. Lee nodded. Yes. After the mayor and his wife died, Tara's relatives took token responsibility for her for a while, but her madness waxed and waned unpredictably. Later, her brothers were all sentenced. Then no one cared at all. Eventually, who knows what he told Tara's relatives, brought her to live in that broken-down house. Thus he fulfilled a longing that had consumed 2 lifetimes. This time when I returned, my in-laws had also shed their landlord classification. My mother-in-law exhaled deeply as she clasped the family's heirloom jade bangle onto my wrist. I hardly dared to wear it. My mother-in-law said, "Ever since you went to university, many people said you'd never come back and would break things off with Paul Yun. But you didn't. You even wrote letters encouraging him to take the college entrance exams too. For our family to have you as a daughter-in-law, that's truly heaven smiling upon us." Running my fingers over the miraculously preserved bracelet, I told her solemnly, "Mom, our best days are still ahead of us." These words visibly warmed her heart. The holiday ended. Paul Yun and I took the bus back to the provincial capital. As the bus neared the village outskirts, passing a high hillside, Paul Yun tugged my sleeve and pointed outside. "Don't believe me? Read them yourselves." I saw him. I couldn't tell if he saw me. He seemed to shout something loudly. I couldn't make it out. "We're never coming back here." Huh? "We'll work hard to settle down in the provincial capital soon, then move both your family and mine out there. Deal. After that, we'll set our sights on the dream of facing the ocean, with spring blossoms in full bloom. Paul, I believe in you."